Hello, everyone, and greetings from the beautiful state of Georgia. My name is Miguelina Valdez, and this is my HSER 508 project for the completion of my interpersonal communication course at Liberty University Online. Basically, this project is mainly intended for us to understand a little bit more about the communication process and how we fit as individuals into this whole communication arena. My first slide actually just covers the introduction as to my HSER course at Liberty University, etc. Now I will proceed on to my second slide, which talks about what interpersonal communication actually is. According to Stewart 2012, interpersonal communication is the kind of quality of contact that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. One might question themselves, what does the personal consist of? Next slide. The personal consists of uniqueness, unmeasurability, responsiveness, reflectiveness, and addressability. Next slide. As part of this project, we are to figure out as individuals what does enlarging the conversation means to us. This was one of the topics that were discussed in one of the discussion boards. According to me, and how I understand this concept, enlarging the conversation means that one is able to understand that communication is continuous, knowing that it existed prior to me or you being born, and it will continue on forever, knowing that it is complex. There are different elements of communication that exist, such as dimensions of communicating events, including facial expressions, tone of voice, choice of word, and all of this is basically elaborated on by Stewart 2012. Understand that communication is collaborative, working together to make meanings of our conversations and the world we live in. Enlarging the conversation allows individuals to keep an open mind and learn to accept others regardless of our preconceived ideas of who the other person is. This allows individuals to progress to healthy and prosperous conversation. Next slide. In this instance, who Miguelina Valdez actually is. According to the Uniquely Used survey by Carbonell, this is expected of me on graph 1. I have an I personality, and graph 2, this is who I really am, is basically above the midline. Interpersonal communication skills test provided by queendom.com demonstrates my strengths, which are insightfulness and assertiveness when speaking to others, and my potential strengths, which are average communication and listening skills, capable of communicating well and comfortable dealing with emotions. Once again, this comes from queendom.com. Next slide. What are some of the characteristics I possess? I am a highly motivated individual, an overachiever, impatient with those who are incompetent, love to impress and inspire people. I am pretty much a people's pleaser. I am very energetic, persuasive and convincing individuals, who dislike conflicts, etc. I am a very convincing individual also. I am a passionate and highly motivated individual as well. How does my behavioral blend affect my conversation? Next slide. My behavioral blend affects my conversations positively. I'm able to communicate better than most people. I show my feelings openly. I'm a very verbal individual. I relate well to others. I'm very friendly. I have this encouraging and enthusiastic personality. The negative downfall to my behavioral blend and the ways it affect my conversation, I do not know when to shut up. This is actually quite accurate. I don't know when to shut up. I should control my exaggeration and need for approval and acceptance. I tend to care more about how I look and come across versus paying attention to others. I'm a very dramatic and emotional person. My ability to influence others is my greatest strength, and also it is my greatest weakness. I tend to go overboard just to be liked, and people can actually get tired of my highly energetic personality, I guess. The next slide actually covers what is my overarching goal. What is my overarching goal? To be quite honest with you, I could not figure out one goal that I could stick to and actually say, hey, I'm only going to focus on this goal. When in reality, I know that there's a lot on my behalf that I should focus as well in the process. In this instance, I would say my overarching goals would be to learn to talk without accusing, attacking, labeling, or judging. Get out of the flat brain syndrome where my stomach overloads. As many of us are aware, Peterson talks about how most of your emotions are located in your stomach. Learn to accept when I am at fault versus playing the fault blame game. Accept Miguelina for who she really is versus what others expect of her, moral accountability. Become open through the exploration of self-knowledge, and put an end to stereotyping and prejudging others. Next slide. The next slide speaks about potential barriers that I encounter, such as biased listening, labeling the information ahead of time as unimportant, too boring, too complex, or nothing new, and we're anxious for the speaker to get to the point. And this comes when I am too focused on basically myself, focused on how I come across to others, that I tend to listen biasly. Next is letting my emotions affect what I listen to. Experiencing high emotions, either positive or negative, usually interferes with my listening ability. Interrupting others, fake listening, self-conscious listening, which is focusing too much on myself by thinking, am I doing well? Do I look all right? What is the other person thinking of me? Etc. Next slide. Overcoming my barriers. Ways that I can overcome my barriers are by listening with understanding and being non-judgmental/critical. Keep an open, relaxed posture while leaning forward. Keep eye contact at all times with the talker. This is something very hard for me to do, hence I get distracted very, very easily. Make facial expressions that let the speaker know I am listening. Not fake listening now, but that I am actually actively listening. Peterson also recommends individuals like myself to bite my tongue even if it bleeds. Stewart also talks about acknowledging the talker or the speaker. Repeat accurately what the talker is saying and use power feelings. Next slide. I'm sorry. My Caribbean actually came out in the way. The next slide actually elaborates on what noise pollution is. Basically, according to Tagliar, Van Ledge, Overkirk, noise pollution is the discrepancies between intended and actual outcomes for an interaction partner due to unintended error. In noise pollution, we have what is called negative noise, which are unintended errors that cause actual outcomes to be worse than intended. And you also have positive noise, which are unintended errors that cause actual outcomes to be better than intended. Next slide. In looking at noise pollution, we have to look at external noise pollution and internal noise pollution. Some examples of external noise pollution are either like you're stuck in traffic, tapping on the desk, wind blowing, baby crying, bell ringing, etc. So these are basically noises that are, as it states, external on the outside. Now we have what is called internal noise pollution, which are basically things such as belief system, your stereotype, your attitudes, your values, your past experiences. These are something that are more emotional, more on the inside versus more so on the surface level. How can noise pollution be avoided? Next slide. We can try to talk with individuals in places where it is quieter and the focus is not on the things going on around us versus it should be on the conversation. Try not to be distracted with everything else around you and be more focused on what the talker is saying. Avoid stereotyping individuals before getting to know them. As Burley tells us, keep an open, curious mind and listen for new ideas everywhere, integrating what they listen to and what they already know. basically integrating what you listen to or I listen to and integrating what I already know or you already know in this instance. And make your beliefs, values, and attitudes and potentially recognize how past experiences may hinder present and future dialogue with others. Next slide. The next slide is basically one of my final, well, it's not the final, but it's almost close to final slide, which actually talks about how I can achieve my overarching goals. Ways in which I can achieve my overarching goals are: make use of the talker-listener card, where one party listens while the other person talks. Understand that no one person can completely control a communication event, and no single person or action causes or can be blamed for a communication outcome. Clarify what the person intends to tell me versus jumping straight to conclusion, as Johnson and Pugash 2004 reminds me. When engaged in a collaborative dialogue, you will seek clarification at times to gain understanding of the information being sent to you. Learn to bite my tongue and be patient with others, even though I may from time to time feel that I have the solution to everything. Listen non-judgmentally. In order for such to occur, I must become engaged in what the talkers are trying to say, to see it, to hear it, to touch it, to feel it, reflect on it, and respect it, as Peterson requires us to do. Reduce emotional disturbance, clarify things, increase self-confidence, and build supportive friendship. Now, these are things that Peterson also recommends each individual to do, particularly individuals like myself. In concluding, this is something that is very close to heart. And this interpersonal communication course was not just completed as part of, one of the requirements. I think it was completed as part of one of God's ways to, tell me, hey, Amelia, now you need to focus more on these things. And, as a soon to be, hopefully, praying and crossing my fingers and praying counselor, I think it is very important for me to self-evaluate myself before I'm able to evaluate my clients, etc. In concluding, I actually wrote this, and it says, one must understand that the manner in which we communicate and listen to one another is not an easy task, but with practice and understanding, anything is possible. One must also remind themselves that when practicing good communication skills, God should be present, because through Him all is possible. We will learn to bite our tongue, love our brothers and sisters as He loves us, not be judgmental, and acknowledge that when we do things out of love, only positive outcomes are bound to be displayed. Thank you guys for watching my interpersonal communications project. I hope that you enjoyed this. This is basically my personality. This is who Miguelina Valdez actually is. From time to time, you may have seen me switch my eyesight, and I do apologize for that, but that was just based on my slides that I had to watch. Nonetheless, I hope that God blesses each one of us, that we may learn to communicate better, that we may become better listeners, and that we may learn to accept when we are wrong, and learn to accept that everything is possible through God who strengthens us. God bless.